Narito ang makabuluhan at siksik na talakayan. Ang programang may puso at kapupulutan ng aral ukol sa seguridad at kaligtasan. Umaksyon, maging alerto. Anghel, Guardia.
Blaze Records. Easy.
Isang masaya, mapayapa at ligtas na araw na Luzon, Visayas at Mindanao.
Huwag ka na malungkot, andito na ako. Pupunasan ko ang luha sa mga mata mo. Di ka na magdurusa pagkat ako magsisilbi sa'yo.
Binabati natin ang lahat ng mga Pinoy all over the world, mula sa Amerika, nasa Europa,
ngumiti ka lang
UAE, Qatar,
lahat ng iyong
at
hirap at
Russia.
sakit ay merong sagot.
Ating
Sa
kakwatihan,
madilim mong
itong
mundo
dalawan,
na nababalo.
kapulisan,
Bubuksan ko yan
kaakibat
at
sa public
bibigyan ko ng
safety,
liwanag.
peace and
Magtiwala
order,
ka
mga
lang
empleyado
at
ng
huwag kang
pamahalaan,
mapagyabang.
mga ordinaryong
Andito ako,
manggagawa, may
handa kitang
kapansanan ka man o
ipaglaban.
wala,
Kahit anong
ang
mangyari,
ating mga
di kita
kabataan
iiwan.
o ang ating
Huwag ka
mga
na malungkot,
tinatawag
andito
na
na ako.
millennial.
Pupunasan
Mula po
ko
sa
ang
amin
luha
dito
sa
sa
mga
programa
mata mo.
Anghel
Di
de
ka
la
na
Guardia,
magdurusa pagkat
programang
ako magsisilbi
para sa
sa'yo.
Guardiang Pilipino,
Anghel
karapatan
de la
ng mga
Guardia.
manggagawang
Huwag
tagaligtas
ka na
at
malungkot,
lahat ng
andito na
manggagawang
ako.
Pilipino ukol
Pupunasan
sa
ko ang luha sa
kaligtasan at
mga mata
kahandaan.
mo. Di ka na magdurusa pagkat ako magsisilbi sa'yo.
The
Anghel de la
national
Guardia.
security community,
Hindi
whole of
ako
government and whole of
Superman.
society
Ako'y
working
normal na
together
tao
Right.
lang. Handa makinig
para
at
ayusin
pwede
yung
mong sandalan.
intergenerational
Kaibigan
problem na yan.
kita,
Si
pero
Chairman
sa
mismo
kabilang
nagtatanong
banda,
to see
pero mahal
ginagawa
mo
ng
rin
mga
siya.
tropa
Di
ng
ako naghahangad
dato,
na mahalin mo
mag-check
rin
ng mga
ako.
drivers,
Pero sana
lalong-lalo
mapansin
na yung
mo
mga
ang
babiyahe ng
pagtingin
malayo.
ko sa'yo. Kahit ang turing mo sa
Ako
akin
po ang
ay
inyong
isang
lingkod,
Anghel de la
Mike
Guardia.
Guardia,
Ayos lang,
DATUIN,
basta alam kong
nagbabalita,
masaya ka.
naghahayagat,
Huwag ka
naglilingkod
na
para sa
malungkot,
kaligtasan
andito
at
na ako.
kapayapaan ng
Pupunasan
bawat
ko ang luha
mamamayan.
sa mga mata mo. Di ka na magdurusa pagkat ako magsisilbi sa'yo. Anghel de la Guardia. Huwag ka na malungkot, andito na ako. Pupunasan ko ang luha sa mga mata mo. Di ka na magdurusa pagkat ako magsisilbi sa'yo. Anghel de la Guardia. Huwag ka na malungkot, andito na ako. Pupunasan ko ang luha sa mga mata mo. Di ka na magdurusa pagkat ako magsisilbi sa'yo. Anghel de la Guardia. Huwag ka na malungkot, andito na ako. Pupunasan ko ang luha sa mga mata mo. Di ka na magdurusa pagkat ako magsisilbi sa'yo. Anghel de la Guardia.
Seguridad at kaligtasan ay responsibilidad ng bawat mamamayan. Mapasaan ka man, lakasan ang loob at magtiwala dahil lahat tayo ay may Anghel de la Guardia. Go!
Hi, this is retired General Emiliano D. Templo. You are listening to the program of Mike DATUIN, otherwise known as Anghel de la Guardia.
Ito po si Martin Aguda. Kayo po ay nakikinig sa Anghel de la Guardia ni Mike DATUIN.
Kayo po ay nakikinig sa Anghel de la Guardia sa DWDD.
Kayo po ay nakikinig sa palatuntunan ni Mike de la Guardia DATUIN sa DWDD Armed Forces Radio.
Ako po si Bong Lebriha, ang head ng EDSA Special Traffic and Transport Zone ng MMDA. Kayo po ay nakikinig sa Anghel de la Guardia ni Mike DATUIN. Samahan niyo po kami.
Hello, magandang araw po. Ako po si Congressman Mike Aglipay ng DIWA Party List. Ako po ay nag-imbita sa inyo na manood ng Anghel de la Guardia sa DWDD tuwing Sabado mula alas 3 hanggang 5 ng hapon. Maraming salamat po.
Okay, magandang gabi po sa ating lahat. Tayo na naman po ay magsasama-sama sa loob ng isang oras. Isang masaya, mapayapa at ligtas na araw sa ating lahat. sa ating mga taga-subaybay ng programa Anghel de la Guardia, Luzon, Visayas at Mindanao. Dito sa LaGuardia News Online FB page at sa DWDD 1134 kHz AM radio via at Katropa DWDD CRS BRTV. Ang programang ito ay atid sa atin ng LaGuardia News, tanod na malayang Pilipino. Binabati po natin ang lahat ng mga Pinoy all over the world mula sa Amerika, Europa, Middle East at sa lahat ng bahagi ng Asya. Binabati rin natin ang lahat ng ating mga kagwardiyan, kasundaluhan, kapulisan, kakibat sa public safety, peace and order, mga empleyado ng pamahalaan at mga pribadong kumpanya. Mga ordinaryong manggagawa may kapansanan man o wala, mga kababaihan at ang mga kabataan at ang kanilang mga pamilya at mga mahal sa buhay, lalo ang lahat ng mga may kamag-anak na naiwan malayo sa kanilang pinagtatrabahuhan. At syempre, higit sa lahat ay ang ating sambayan ng Pilipino saan ka man dito sa Pilipinas at sa buong mundo. Mula po sa atin dito sa programa Anghel de la Guardia, ang programang para sa Guardiang Pilipino, karapatan ng manggagawang tagaligtas at lahat ng manggagawang Pilipino ukol sa kaligtasan at kahandaan. Ako po ang inyong lingkod, Mike LaGuardia, DATUIN, nagbabalita, naghahayag at naglilingkod para po sa kaligtasan at kapayapaan ng bawat mamamayan. Inaayahan po natin ang lahat na sumubaybay, sumali sa usapan, magkomento, magbigay ng reaksyon at opinyon sa pamamagitan ng pag-type nito sa ating comment space, sa ating Facebook page. Of course, ito ay at LaGuardia News Online FB page. Or pwede po kayong sumali sa ating replay tuwing Sabado sa pamamagitan naman ng pagsali sa ating katropa DWDD CRS VRTV. Mula po sa alas 3 ng hapon hanggang alas 5 ng hapon tuwing Sabado. Huwag niyo pong kalimutang i-like and share ang ating pong live broadcast ngayong gabi to your friends and friends timeline. Review us at Katropa CRS BRTV or at LaGuardia News Online FB page if you've missed this program. Ano ang meron sa atin ngayon? Tayo po ay usapang DIWA Party List. At ang ating pong topic for tonight, syempre, ay due process in the workplace. Pero, mas magandang pag-usapan yan na makasama natin sila in a few minutes, yung ating legal officer ng DIWA Party List from the office of Congressman Michael Edgar Aglipay. Pero syempre, ayoko naman umpisa ng ating platuntunan na hindi kasama ang ating partner na from the PSPG Advisory Council. Walang iba kung hindi si Brother Louie Domingo.
Hey,
Brother,
hey.
Welcome to the program.
Yes, Mike. Good evening at good evening sa 20 to 30,000 na nakikinig sa iyo online. Ewan ko, nabati mo pa yung YouTube eh. Pero extending there po, inuulit ko na lang, extending there ang program ni Mike. So again, if you miss us, miss the program pala. Miss the program, pwede nyo pong habulin ang replays ng program even on YouTube. And you can send your comments dito po sa kanyang direct line in FB or sa programa. Or, di ba, para mabasa natin yung mga chat na, yung mga comments, yung mga tanong ninyo. Yan, dahil I'm sure, dahil yung DIWA Parties is concerning mga manggagawa. Yan ang pagkakaalam ko sa kanila eh. So if you have concerns about sa due process sa workplace, ayan po, mag-chat na kayo, itanong nyo via the YouTube channel or the FB. But thank you, Mike. Great evening to you. Great evening.
Magandang gabi, brother. Ano bang due process in the workplace. If we talk about that, ano bang pumapasok sa isipan mo kagad, brother? Yeah.
Oh, good. Diba? May nagawa ba akong mali? So ano ang benchmark na masabing mali yun?
Yun yung una, no? Yung meron ba ako nagawa mali? How would you know kung meron kang nagawa mali?
Yes. Diba?
Yan,
nakasulat ba yan?
Una is may nagawa ba akong mali? How would I know? Kung meron ako nagawa mali. This is in the context of the workplace, ha?
Yes.
Tapos ano pa?
Ano ba yung mga marami nagtatanong kasi, ano namin yan, policy kasi namin yan, procedure namin yan. Ano ba pagkakaiba ng dalawa? Sa akin, personal opinion lang ako. Kasi confusing naman talaga siya eh. May alam din ako paano yan. Kaya lang, syempre iba pa rin pagka yung experts natin na nagsabi kung paano yan. Kasi pag policy, ano ba yan? Mababago ba natin yan? Pag procedure, babaguhin ba natin yan? Ano ba pa? To fit what is right, to fit what is the norm, at kung anong dapat. But in any case, patas dapat. You know, it's for the good of all. Yan. And we do our best. Diba? Ikaw, bro.
Ako, ang unang pumapasok sa akin is, isa sa mga pumapasok sa isipan ko pag sinabing due process in the workplace. Dito kasi sa industry natin, specifically in the private security industry, is yung pwede ka na lang tanggalin anytime.
Uy,
alam mo yun, naranasan mo ba yun?
Oo.
Yung at one time, bigla na lang nirequest ka nung kliyente sa agency o sa officer nung detachment mo. Pagkatapos, sinabi nung detachment ay, Mr. DATUIN, huwag ka na mag-report bukas, back to home base ka na, back to headquarters. Okay, back to headquarters. Ano pong ginawa ko? Diba? Basta, pumunta ka na dun sa headquarters.
Basta?
Syempre, obey first before you complain. So, pupunta ka naman. Ikaw naman tong si regular na security guard, si SG Kolokoy. Meron akong column nun sa dyaryo ko, ang pangalan SG Kolokoy. It's the colloquial security guard, no?
Okay.
At si SG Kolokoy, wala nang inabot na mabuti sa kanyang pagduduty bilang kwarta. Yun yung storyline ni SG Kolokoy doon sa aking Guardia News. And yun yung where everything started in Guardia. Sa newspaper, it's a cross between a tabloid and a broadsheet. And it only talks about the industry, safety, and security. And yung comic strip na yun, buhay ni SG Kolokoy. Ang istorya ni SG Kolokoy. Yan yung ano niya. And every time we cite a activity, a normal day-to-day activity ng ating Guardia.
Okay.
And yan yung isa sa nai-post ko. At nung pinost ko yan, nung ginawa namin yan, pinag-uusapan namin storyline, ano kaya, marami yan eh. It's everything in the workplace. So, ito si SG Kolokoy, sige para, puntan tayo dun sa sitwasyon. Pinag-report doon sa, sa opisina nila, sa agency. Kasi, si SG Kolokoy ay, sinita ang isang empleyado
Saan sinita? Okay.
Yung unang comic strip, yung isang sa storyboard, yung first storyboard was SG Kolokoy frisking an employee and cited a violation to that employee.
Oh, okay.
And asan ID mo? Di ba? No ID, no entry eh.
Oh, yeah. Diba? Famous words.
Okay, the famous words. Yan ang battle cry ng security. So, sabi nung hindi mo ba ako kilala? Yun yung first strip. Tapos yung second strip is, hindi mo ba ako kilala? Yun yung second strip. Sabi ni SG Kolokoy, wala ho akong pakialam kung sino kayo. Di nyo ho ba nakikita ang sign? No entry, no ID.
No ID, no entry. Yes. Tama.
Mananagot ka sa akin. Yun yung fourth slide. So, ano yan? Kamot ulo, it's SG Kolokoy. Sabi, last slide, sabi nung last slide, SG Kolokoy, report ka daw sa headquarters. Huwag ka na pumasok bukas. And, tapos na yun. That is an open-ended question which is hypothetical in the basic colloquial situation in one detachment ng isang security guard. Ako, I'm not here to talk about the proper way of security guard, the 10 code. No, I'm not here to preach that. No, I mean, you learn that, you have to go to training. pwedeng pag-usapan niya paminsan-minsan, pero you have to go to proper training at hindi ko
Yes.
ipopost yan sa YouTube or sa Facebook. I mean, look, it's a security guard's training that he
Yes.
has to undergo in the four corners in one facility that has four walls and an instructor, 'di ba?
Correct.
You want to research, meron akong libro, handbook para sa kagwardyan. Meron din
Oo
libro
nga
si Sir Joel Supan, yung Art and Science of Guarding. You can go through that. But now here is where the joke lies, no? Ano nga ba mangyayari kay SG Colocoy nung pinareport siya sa opisina? Siya ba ay
Okay.
matatanggal? Siya ba ay hindi matatanggal? Ano ang mangyayari? And this is one classic example of due process in the workplace.
Okay.
No, in the first place, how do you send a security guard? How do you first cite to that security guard what is wrong or his
Yes.
violation?
Yes.
What must a supervisor do? Well, what are the responsibilities of a basic security officer?
Yeah.
Di ba? Yan yung nakakatawa dyan eh. But do you know? Did you know? Ito trivia.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, makinig.
Did you know that as per statistics, gumawa kami nito sa Security Guards Association of the Philippines ng study and a statistic check ng gaano karami ang security officer na alam kung ano yung gagawin niya bilang security officer.
Okay.
Out of
Sama survey ba yan?
parang gano'n.
Okay.
It's a study kung gaano karami ang may security officer alam ang gagawin niya. Security agency to yung ano sa detachment. Ang lumabas doon sa reading, if I recall it right, out of 1,200 security agencies. Then, ito, 2008 ito, 2007. Ang study, ang meron doon was out of out of 1,270 plus security agency that time, or if I'm not mistaken, mga 800 security agencies. Dinowngrade pa namin siya for NCR alone. So NCR kasi marami ang security agencies na nasa NCR. I think then it was 800 or less 500. So on that ratio, biruin mo 70% to 75. Around that percentage, 65 to 75%. Ang hindi alam ang dapat na gawin ng isang security officer na due process para sa kanilang gwardiya. Hindi nga alam yung trabaho niya. So napakalaking disparity niya, brother. And I'm not one to lie because I'm on radio. This will be recorded so we can check the facts noong 2007, 2008. And napakalaki nun para masabi natin na gaano ka-professional noon. So you'll start thinking, no? Maganda rin naman yung mga sagot ng iba, sinasabi ng iba na I recall one answer that was discussed and not properly. He was oriented. He was given a seminar. They were given an orientation prior to their duties and function. Maganda yun. Nung narinig ko yun, sabi ko, yan ang standard. Diba? Yan ang standard talaga. And true enough, eventually, competition makes good security officers, no? So, but unfortunately, that is the situation. Pero kung ito'y embedded as a ethics, no, as a usual process, a standard professional responsibility ng isang security agency human resource manager, which falls under, remember, not higher percentage. I cannot recall for a fact kung gaano karami, pero malaki pa rin sa porsyento noong 2007 ang walang HR sa security agencies. Would you believe? Operations manager meron, pero HR hindi pa. Admin, diretso, finance. So, the owner, the finance manager, the operations manager. Kasi si operations manager, normally, siya na rin yung nagpa-function as HR. Before, So that was year 2007. At those particular times and places na na-interview namin. Kasi, you know, doing a study is also good in justifying na yung naoobserbahan mo ba at nararanasan mo ba ay valid. No? But who am I to talk about that? Siguro, mas maganda kung mapaimbita na natin. So, napainit na natin ang ating first quarter of our program. So, while waiting for our representative of the DIWA party list, walang iba kung hindi si Attorney, no? Attorney JP Lopez. Attorney JP, good evening. Welcome to the program.
Hello, good evening, Boss Louie, Boss Mike, how are you guys?
Good, thank you. Oh, nag-dedicate na ako ng full hour for DIWA party list. Usapang
Kulang
DIWA
naman talaga.
party list na tayo, Attorney JP.
Ayos naman. Thank you for having me again. And sana di kayo masawa sa akin.
Naman. You know, actually, this is kind of good, no? I mean, this is a good thing from your end, from the DIWA party list and to our listeners na meron tayong topic, yung due process in the workplace, no, Attorney JP. Can you give us an overview just before we go ahead and start?
Okay, because diba in all things, diba, what my professor should always start when they talk about due process is that they talk about one of the things about is running a business. There's also something what you call management prerogative. The management prerogative is an all-encompassing power of the management to decide things for the betterment of their business. Diba? But it's in a way the due process comes in, it's to limit that power or to limit that exercise of management prerogative. So a corporate a business can't just do anything na gusto nila. The management prerogative, trip, it's for the business, That's good, yes, they should think of the business. But I guess in a due process is a way to limit that power of management. Diba? But if you look at the biggest perspective rin, it's properly exercised management prerogative will always aim for the growth of the business. So in a way, it's so broad and it's so important. But again, due process, and it's not the perfect world. So due process is a way to limit the abuse of the exercise of management prerogative. So look at that. In maraming businesses, we know that. So so it's good to
parang wala lang abuse kasi mamaya ano ba yun, Mike? Kasi basta. Ilang rason sa'yo.
Exactly, parang
diba?
Kasi basta.
Yan yung sinasabi ko kanina, Attorney JP, before we started. We were talking about what do we think about due process. So I recalled one time on my newspaper, yung LaGuardia News, meron akong comic strip dun eh. Ang ni SG Colocoy, mga storya ni SG Colocoy. At I cited a process wherein, siguro baka na monitor mo kanina, sinabi yung bigla na lang siyang pinatanggal doon sa detachment. Pinag-report doon sa agency. So back to headquarters siya. Verbal verbal and outright after the duty. Actually, hindi pa nga after the duty, siguro mga 3 hours. Makailang sandali. Yun eh. Yun yung nakalagay doon. Makailang sandali. Habang nagtatrabaho si SG Colocoy, meron kasing story yan sa ibabaw. Nung nagawa niya, pinag-report siya sa agency, sinabihan siya. So may hours gap pa before matapos yung shift niya. Kasi I don't know, for me, it has something to do with it. When do you cite? When do you call a employee? May timing din yan eh. You cannot just, at the middle of the day, you tell him na, alam mo, Mr. Employee, hindi maganda ang ginagawa mo. Minsan, mali pa yung pagkakabanggit mo eh. You have the wrong approach. Baka biglang mag-freak out yan. So, security risk ka na. So, yung time na yun, actually, yung sitwasyon na yun, ay calls for a question in the due process in the workplace. Security kasi may certain procedures, papers, and whatnot. So, which is probably magiging laman ng ating magiging usapan ngayon. So, now that we have already given o nabanggit na natin, kilakiliting na natin ang kaisipan ng ating mga tagapanood, tagapakinig na sa ating programa, Due Process in the Workplace. Tonight, yan ang ating diskusyon. Sa lahat po ng mga hindi pa nagla-login, sa lahat po ng mga nag-iisip-isip pa kung makikinig ba kayo sa palatuntunan o sasama ba kayo sa aming usapan, ito, binabayaran to sa labas. So dito, libre. Sali na kayo sa usapan, mag-comment kayo, sumama kayo sa aming comment space, magbigay kayo ng opinion, magbigay kayo ng inyong thoughts and views towards the discussion para naman masagutan, no? At mapag-usapan natin yung due process in the workplace. With our program tonight, Usapang DIWA Party List with Attorney JP Lopez at ating pagnilayan. Ano ba ang due process in the workplace? Tara nga, sali na. Anghel de la Guardia na, may DIWA Party List ka pa. So magbabalik po ang ating palatuntunan sa isang saglit.
Narito ang makabuluhan at siksik na talakayan. Ang programang may puso at kapupulutan ng aral. Ukol sa seguridad at kaligtasan. Umaksyon, maging alerto. Anghel de la Guardia.
Blaze Records. Easy.
Isang masaya, mapayapa at ligtas na araw Luzon, Visayas at Mindanao.
Huwag ka na malungkot, andito na ako. Pupunasan ko ang luha sa mga mata mo. Di ka na magdurusa pagkat ako magsisilbi sa'yo.
Binabati natin ang lahat ng mga Pinoy all over the world, mula sa Amerika, sa Europa,
ngumiti ka lang
UAE, Qatar,
lahat ng iyong
at
hirap
saka
at masakit ay merong sagot.
ating
Sa
kakwatihan,
madilim mong mundo
sundaluan,
na nababalo,
kapulisan,
bubuksan ko yan at
sa public
bibigyan ko ng
safety,
liwanag.
peace and
Magtiwala
order,
ka
mga
lang
empleyado
at
ng
huwag kang
pamahalaan,
mapagyabang.
mga ordinaryong
Andito
manggagawa,
ako,
may
handa
kapansanan
kitang
ka man o
ipaglaban.
wala,
Kahit anong
ang
mangyari,
ating
di
mga
kita
kabataan
iiwan.
o ang ating mga tinatawag millennial. Mula po sa amin dito sa programa Anghel de la Guardia, programang para sa Guardiang Pilipino, karapatan ng mga manggagawang tagaligtas at lahat ng manggagawang Pilipino ukol sa kaligtasan at kagandahan.
Di ka na magdurusa pagkat ako magsisilbi sa iyong
the
Anghel de la
national
Guardia.
security community, whole of government and whole of society working together para ayusin yung intergenerational problem na yan.
Si Chairman mismo nagtatanong to see ginagawa ng mga tropa na mandato na mag-check ng mga drivers, lalong-lalo na yung mga babiyahe na malayo.
Kahit ang turing mo sa
Ako
akin
po ang inyong lingkod, Mike Laguardia, DATUIN, nagbabalita, naghahayag at naglilingkod para sa kaligtasan at kapayapaan ng
pupunasan
bawat
ko ang luha sa
mamayan.
mga mata mo. Di ka na magdurusa pagkat ako magsisilbi sa iyong Anghel de la Guardia. Huwag ka na malungkot, andito na ako. Pupunasan ko ang luha sa mga mata mo. Di ka na magdurusa pagkat ako magsisilbi sa iyong Anghel de la Guardia. Huwag ka na malungkot, andito na ako. Pupunasan ko ang luha sa mga mata mo. Di ka na magdurusa pagkat ako magsisilbi sa iyong Anghel de la Guardia. Huwag ka na malungkot, andito na ako. Pupunasan ko ang luha sa mga mata mo. Di ka na magdurusa pagkat ako magsisilbi sa iyong Anghel de la Guardia.
Seguridad at kaligtasan ay responsibilidad ng bawat mamamayan. Mapasaan ka man, lakasan ng loob at magtiwala dahil lahat tayo ay may Anghel de la Guardia. Okay, may babati eh. Sandali lang.
Hello, magandang araw po. Ako po si Congressman Mike Aglipay ng DIWA Party List. Ako po ay nag-imbita sa inyo na manood ng Anghel la Guardia sa DWDD tuwing Sabado mula alas 3 hanggang 5 ng hapon. Maraming salamat po.
Ayan nagyayaya na si Congressman Mike.
Monitored.
tayo po yung nagbabalik sa ating palatuntunan at Nag-usap kami kanina. Napatawag siya kanina. So, pinag-uusapan natin usapang kayo po ay nakikinig sa palatuntunang Anghel de la Guardia at tayo po ay nasa usapang DIWA Party List together with my partner Louis Domingo and Attorney JP Lopez, ang legal officer po ng DIWA Party List office from the office of Congressman Michael Edgar Aglipay. At ang topic po natin ngayong gabi ay due process in the workplace. Nag-invite po tayo dahil alam ko po marami pong nakakaintindi dyan, lalo po sa ating mga security guards at ang ating pong mga trabahador in general, no, mga independent workers in the workplace. So kasama na dyan si Bernie Siniel na bumabati ng good evening, Bro Mike, Bro Louie, Attorney JP, watching your program, Anghel de la Guardia from Bacolod City. So, Attorney JP, Bernie, yung mga tanong mo, banat na. So, sabi ni Ms. Claribel Balmores Nagar, good evening, Mike. Good evening po, ma'am. And Johnny Zalagoste, good evening, watching from RPSPU 4A. Sa lahat ng ating Regional Police Security Protection Unit all over the country. Attorney JP, due process in the workplace.
Okay. I actually have slides here, so we can discuss it a little bit, at least to. It's a short, brief discussion on what it is. So I'll just share my slides.
Okay, sure.
Yun.
Wait lang.
Due process talagang sa lahat actually ito na manggagawa, Mike, no? Na siyempre may empleyado lang ako eh. May karapatan ba ako humindi? May karapatan ba akong magtanong bakit? 'Di ba? At hindi na ako papasok bukas. Tapos okay lang ba na ang sagot sa iyo ay basta kasi gusto ko para sa ikabubuti to. Ha?
Alam ko sa Amerika may kilala ako na nagtatrabaho sa mga fast food, mga ganyan the next day pag nagka-problema sila sa iyo, more often they give you chances, no? Pero doon diretso ka na kagad sa by the way, you're fired.
Okay, that's actually true because in the US setting, it's most jurisdictions there. Yung their labor, parang their right to terminate of the is immediate. So parang if you want to terminate someone within the Philippine setting, it's harder. It's actually harder, and the laborers are actually protected here. In a sense, because of everything which we briefly discuss. Diba? Let's say even mga dating movies, diba? Yung makita natin, sa mga comedy movies natin dati, or mga sitcoms natin, you notice that, nasisante ka na, you're fired, parang gano'n. Immediate. Pero you don't see yung actual things which have to happen within, based on yung Philippine law talaga. So, the labor, protection to labor, but it's really more protected here.
So una, wag maging basis ang mga pelikula. Second, wag gawing basis ang batas ng ibang bansa. Yan. So sabi mas protected tayo dito. So yan.
Ko muna yung aking
go ahead.
Yan ang aking grandma, si Erlinda Granados mula sa Amerika. Ayan. Keep up the good tuloy.
Good evening po.
Good evening po. Good morning. Baka sa inyo kung nasa Amerika po.
Good morning ba?
New Jersey yan. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Good morning po. Yun.
Ayun. Go.
So due process in the workplace. If you look at it, ano yung important? One of the most important is yung basis. If you look at it, nasa saligang batas natin, which is Article 13, Section 3. The state shall afford full protection to labor, local and overseas, organized and unorganized, and promote full employment and equality of employment and opportunities for all. It shall guarantee the right of workers to self-organization, collective bargaining and negotiations, and peaceful concerted activities, including the right to strike in accordance with law. They shall be entitled to security of tenure, humane conditions of work, and a living wage. They shall also participate in policy decision-making process affecting their rights and benefits as may be provided by law. The state shall promote full principle and shared responsibility between workers and employers, and the preferential use of voluntary modes in settling disputes, including conciliation, and shall enforce their mutual compliance therewith to foster industrial peace. The state shall regulate the relations between workers and employers, recognizing the work the right to labor and just share in fruits production, and the right of enterprises to reasonable returns to investment, expansion, and growth. So ito yung mga essential things we have to see. If you notice, yung essential words should be part of our discussion right now. One, security of tenure. Okay, it's a very important clause, especially with many calls in due process of the work rate. Security of tenure. The next paragraph, it's also very important, diba?
Security of tenure.
Voluntary modes in settling disputes, okay, including conciliation and shall enforce the mutual compliance therewith to industrial peace. It's a massive, we'll also discuss that. And then, reasonable enterprises to investments and return to expansion and growth. So we begin with that, diba? The right of enterprises to reasonable returns to investments and to expansion and growth. That's where yung management prerogative comes in. Diba? Siyempre, tatayo ako ng business. Bakit ba tatayo ako ng business? Kasi gusto ko kumita. Diba? Gusto ko kumita. I want to improve my lot in life. Diba? And siyempre, part of doing business is that you employ people. Diba? Part of business is employing people. But again, just because you're employing people, it doesn't mean that you treat them like property mo na sila. Diba? Your full management prerogative does not entitle you to exercise everything at a whim. It should be reasonable. It should always be reasonable.
Parang
diba parang reasonable? And then, how can you be reasonable? If you look at it, that's why the laws. In fact, let me compare it lang. Let's say if you look at the Constitution, we know, look at how vast the powers of the government are to regulate, diba lahat? That's why yung mga human rights, it's to balance it. In the same way, sometimes laws, they know that private enterprises should be, to a certain extent, regulated or controlled, diba? And that's why, and to ensure, to protect also the people, to protect labor. So in this case, we have how the management prerogative is limited is to be noticed in labor code, diba? Which is why you also look at this, diba? The statutory, yung law. This is the embodiment already of what we pointed out, diba? Previously, we noticed, diba, they shall be entitled to security of tenure. What is security of tenure, diba? In cases of regular employment, the employer shall not terminate the services of an employee except for a just cause or when authorized by this title. An employee who is unjustly dismissed from work shall be entitled to reinstatement without loss of seniority rights and other privileges, and to his full back wages, inclusive of allowances, and to his other benefits or their monetary equivalent, computed from the time his compensation was withheld from him up to the time of his actual reinstatement. So dito muna lalo in discussion natin. Sige, so security of tenure, ano ibig sabihin yun? I have a job, diba? May marami aspects yan. Even normal aspect yan, diba? May probationary aspect rin yan. Yes. Pagpasok ko sa job, I prove that I am worthy of this job, diba? So, diba? Worth it, qualified ako to have this employment. So you go through that rigorous part of probationary employment, diba? So once I'm able to prove, okay pala, qualified tong qualified
which
tong
is
batang
the Pilipinas, Attorney JP, how long?
6 months.
6 months. So does it
depends on the standard rule is 6 months, depende on the industry. Let's say for teachers naman, it's not 2 semesters. I'm not so sure. But teachers, iba naman, it's a matter of semesters. Because, diba, a semester does not necessarily last 6 months, diba? So, kulang yan to determine if a teacher can be made permanent. But for a regular employer...
So, is it safe to say that once they have reached the required number of the observation period, dapat ikaw ay ma-regular?
Ito yung thing is, it's again a management prerogative. Let's say, si Peter, let's call this Peter, he applies for a job. Okay, Peter, This is the these are the standards by which we will be judging you, and how will be your performance rating. You should be made
before hiring.
yes. Parang he should be made aware of the standards by which he will be judged.
Okay.
And then pasok naman lahat yan.
Parang job description na rin.
Parang job description na rin yan.
Okay.
Okay, once makapasok na siya, okay, you are permanent. Okay, permanent ka na. Ayun, 6 months. So ayun, he has to send, in a sense, security of tenure as a regular employee. Diba? As a regular employee. What does that mean? Ayun, you can be sure that for as long as you don't do anything, hindi ka maloko sa trabaho mo. Diba? And then you are responsible in doing your work. You can be secure that every single day pagpasok mo, hindi ka nila you can be sure that you have a job. You can be sure that pagpasok ko, I have job, you have things to do. Diba? And then you can be secure in a sense that you'll be paid and you'll be receiving all the benefits you are entitled to as a regular employee. Diba? So paano yan? Pero paano yan? Diba? As a regular employee, we know that where this management prerogative come in naman. Diba, syempre, they know that I am hiring you because you are helping this business grow. You are helping me reach my, you are helping me attain my goal of earning. And then, syempre, I pay you well. I pay you. Let's say, I pay you, let's say si Peter, 60,000 pesos, yung, yung salary niya sa if you're side note, if you know that issue right now, the guy who rejected 37,000. So that's another thing to talk about later on. But this 60,000, let's say ang daily salary niya, I expect you to be able to perform, diba? If I'm paying you something, I should be able to expect you to perform at a certain level. And I should expect you that you should not do certain things. So paano yan, paano yung termination issues naman? Okay. So, there are certain issues rin that I won't dive into sobrang technicalities, but for this purpose, we'll talk about yung just causes. And I'll briefly discuss yung mga authorized causes rin. Excuse me. So you have yung mga serious misconduct, willful disobedience of a lawful order. Again, it's connected to work. Gross and habitual neglect of duty. Fraud or willful breach of trust. Commission of a crime against the employer, employer's family, members, or representative. Other analogous causes. Well, number 6, that's brief. That's not brief. That's broad. That's very broad na discussion. Pero ano yung mga, let's say, ano yung mga serious misconduct na sinasabi natin? Ano yung mga serious misconduct? Some jurisprudence, if I remember correctly, even fighting in the office. Diba? Kung may dalawang magsapakan sa office, ganun. And then, willful disobedience of an employer's lawful orders connected with work. May pinapagawa sa'yo. Again, it must be connected with work. Diba? Let's say, hindi siya pwede babaw. Let's say, chief executive. Let's say, kunin mong tubig. Tapos ayaw mo kunin ng tubig. Hindi naman pwede ganun. Kasi diba, that's not connected to your work. Not unless personal assistant ka.
Okay.
Diba? Pero diba, if it's willful disobedience, it must be connected to work. And then what?
Attorney, paano yung, ito palagi ito lumalabas sa, job description ng iba. And other tasks which may be assigned to. That's very, sabi ko, hindi description yan broad and subjective na yan Pero nakalagay sa iba, di ba? And other tasks or jobs that may be assigned to you. Pwede ba yun? Pwede ba ilagay yun as hindi objective
Excuse me. If you look at the other task assigned to you, again, you should always, it must be connected with work. And it must be connected, not haphazardly, but must be directly connected to the purpose of the business. That's how I'd argue for it, diba? It must be connected with the purpose of the business. And it must be connected for the growth of the business. It must be connected always with what is the purpose of the business, whatever it's running, diba? If it's a media company, Diba? If it's a, let's say, media company, hey, Stringer, we're lacking ano, and then you're being trained to ano, we need a instant photographer or instant cameraman, and it's a media company. I think that can be ano, included to the other tasks which may be assigned to you, because it's, again, you have to be able to connect it to the purpose of the business that you entered into. Diba? And then
pinagwalis ako. Paano pinagwalis ako?
Let's already
yeah, pero subjective pa rin. If it's okay for me, then okay, di ba? Para sa clean and green na policy natin, then go ahead. Pero if you feel, if you feel like,
capriccio lang, di ba?
Yes, or trip lang na your job is to be a cameraman, tas ang taas na pinapagawa sa'yo pagwawalis, and then i-judge ka sa hindi mo na fulfill pagiging cameraman mo kasi walis ka ng walis. Then it's you have the right there, di ba?
On a non-legal, on an HR perspective, if your boss makes you do that, you leave that company.
Diba? Okay.
Meron kasing ano bro meron kasing, you know, I mean, it's very obvious that when we lead a company, we must be morally upright. Hindi naman tayo, yun nga, yung checks and balance na this is the reason why there is a labor law. Because you cannot just, you know, yung sinabi na Attorney JP kanina, merong, Attorney JP, to make it proper, no? Yung para tama, yung pagnenegosyo, pag-manage, no? Dahil you cannot treat anyone like a slave. Yung nabanggit ko kanina, hindi pwedeng like a slave. This is where all the moral responsibilities and professional management principles must be applied. So pag may employee ka, we're talking about semantics, too big, yung mga gano'n. I mean, there's such thing as there's such thing as, siyempre, you do things to, of course, to also add rapport with your officers, with your co-employees, lalo na sa boss mo. Diba? So pag pinakuha ka ng tubig, parang nga namang willfully sabihin mo, di kumuha ka, hinire ka nga. Diba? Parang there is, pag sinasasabihin ng mga employer, parang sandali, parang inutusan ko, nakipakabot lang naman ako ng tubig, bawal. No, I mean, you as an employee, if it is not too much for you, ibabalik ta rin ko lang yung side of the coin, ano? Kasi minsan din kasi, hindi naman pwedeng crybaby ka. Nautusan ka lang ng konti, hindi wala yan sa karapatang patao ko. Alam mo yun? I mean, look, pinabot lang ng tubig sa'yo. Pero kung ginagawa yun madalas, at inaapakan ng pagkatao mo, may iba ng disposition yun. It now goes to the level, right, Attorney JP?
Yeah, but again, hold on to that thought because it's something interesting which I can connect to one of the things I will discuss also later on.
Okay.
Sir Bernie has a question. Attorney JP, napakaganda po ng provision ng Constitution about labor law on security industries. Setting how do we apply security of tenure when the security guards were treated as project employees? There were previous issuances that discussed about security of tenure of security guards. Yet until now, para malinaw, can you enlighten us on this? This will actually require a longer discussion, but than time we have now. But here's how I can explain it briefly. In a sense that the limits of security guard, the security of tenure, he will be secure that ma-assign siya. In a sense na dapat ma-assign siya sa isang institution wherein he can exercise his profession as a security guard. Diba? The furlough law, I guess yung furlough, yung tinatawag na floating status.
Yes.
There's a limit, 6 months. Diba? There's a limit of 6 months, but I'll discuss that later on. Pinahaba siya ngayon because of COVID. But in a sense that yung security of tenure mo, you should always be assured that you will be assigned. Diba? Kailangan ma-assign ka as long as there is an institution yung kailangan ng security guards, diba? Let's say, that's briefly how I can explain it right now. But again, you can get your email kay Sir Mike. I can give you an opinion. Not here. I can give you an opinion. If you can just leave your email to Sir Mike, I can be able to answer that. But in the sense that
Attorney JP, pwede ko siyang i-direct sa DO 150-16 na pinumunuan din ng DIWA party list, no? By General Aglipay himself as one of the main proponents in partnership with PADPAW. Nagpunta sila sa Department of Labor and napag-usapan ito at pinanganak yung Department Order 150-16 until nagkaroon ng tripartite on private security industry. So Private Security Industry Tripartite Council at napag-usapan yung creation of the Department Order 150-16, which is the department order that talks about the working condition of all private security industry workers. So siguro, Attorney JP, I'll point Bernie Siniel, apart from yung kukunin din natin yung email address niya ni Bernie para ibigay sa inyo. Pero meron din isang mabilis Bernie, Mr. Siniel. Kaibigan natin to, nasa private security to si Bernie. Na Department Order 150-16. Just read through the clause on working condition and you will see what is now the standard of the private security on as worker. Kasi bawal na silang maging contractual. Bawal na silang maging, ano yung sinasabi niya? Project based. Kasi once na hinire sila, if I can remember it right, because I'm part of the Private Security Industry Tripartite Council. When we were discussing that, if I can remember it right, please validate it sa DO na pag ikaw ay in-employ ng agency, in-employ ka na niya. So basic, empleyado ka. Basically, you're an employee of that agency. So pag employee,
you are not the employee of the
you're not the employee of the company, of the client.
Yes.
So you're the employee of the agency.
So pananagutan ka ng agency.
Yun. Diba, no?
Agency.
Yes.
Oo. So, ngayon,
Hindi
sa agency, hindi ka naman pwedeng tanggalin. Responsibility niya, kapag more than 6 months ka nang nag-serve doon sa project na yun, for sure, 6 months ka na doon sa agency. So, kaya ako natanong Attorney JP kanina, how long is the observation period? Because once you have already been with the company for more than 6 months, is that an automatically deemed a regular employee pag more than 6 months na? Pero hindi ka pa rin nilalabasan ng ano?
Oh yes, it's here's the thing is, in management, you have those 6 months. If you see marami kang red flags nakita sa employee, 'di ba? Marami kang red flags nakita. Pero biglang ande parang you slept on your right to not include him into the institution. Lumampas ang 6 months. Hindi mo siya sinabihan, I'm sorry, you did not qualify. In fact, you did not qualify and you did not fit to our standards. If you fail to do that, you should do that actually immediately if you think na may red flags.
It doesn't have to reach, it should not reach 5 months. Dapat pag nakita mo na.
You should be able to already, you are, okay, we are sorry, but you are not right for the company. Ayun, so we wish you well.
And you document it. You
document it. You really document it. That's the thing is with all institutions in both sides, diba? It's for the industries, whatever industry, they should always keep metrics on how they judge the employee.
Yun diba? Yung first part na binanggit mo, Attorney JP, na inoriente. So you were oriented, you were given the basic principles, yung sinabi ni partner Louie, yung duties and responsibilities, no? So nabigay na sa'yo yung job description mo. So dapat yun ang standard mo ngayon. Yun yung performance.
And any good human resource organization, if you have a good human resources, diba? They will know not only how to properly manage the human resources. They will know also how to. They will know how to prevent people from having to. They will know how to address properly. If they see early warning signs na yung ginagawa ng mga just causes, they'll know how to management. Hey, Peter, I know you have potential, so they know how to manage these possible issues. They know if Peter's not qualified to enter the corporation by before the 6 month, they'll already they'll let him go. But problem is, ayun nga, what happens after 6 months? Diba? Naging permanent siya. Well, now, you can only terminate him for any of the just causes. In this case, but syempre, let's say kung may authorized causes rin, which is not on the actions of, because when you talk about authorized causes, it's outside forces. Just causes refers to actions done by the employee. Diba? If you look at authorized causes, tingnan mo, kasi pansin mo, introduction of labor-saving devices, redundancy, retrenchment to prevent losses, closure or cessation of business. So these things are not on the part of the employee, but rather outside forces, or let's say how the industry sometimes moves, diba? How the industry sometimes moves. But right now, we're focusing on just causes.
Yeah.
So look, if you have Peter, let's say si Peter naging problema, diba? Once you fail to properly exercise your management prerogative during his probationary period, once he becomes a regular employee, he is already protected. There's another level of protection that he enjoys in a sense na may mga just causes na. You can only terminate him for a just cause. So in that sense. Diba? So you have to be watchful then. Pero again, diba, as an employee, diba, paano kung napagtripan ka? Paano kung na galit lang sa'yo yung mga boss, ganun? Paano kung, diba, there may instances like that, eh. There are politics in the workplace, diba? There are politics in the workplace. So maski na may mga just causes, may just cause for termination, we also have to look at this. There is a certain procedure. Ayan. So the example na binigay ni Sir Mike, yung security guard na parang pinabalik sa
Chikolokoy.
Chikolokoy.
Di binigyan ng pamasahe.
Ito, pero again, before that can happen, then I guess it's ako say mercy instances rin but the cases I've handled rin, yung labor cases, yung dapat habang tuloy pa tong labor case na to, pinabayad ka pa rin yung sweldo mo. 'Di ba? Pag pinabalik ka, but there's an exception to that. I'll talk about that later. Let's say si Peter, meron siyang nagawa. Let's say pili tayo dito. Let's say habitual neglect of duty. Ayun. Peter, dapat there's notice, diba? May just cause siya ginawa. Let's say sleeping always at work during work time, outside work outside rest period.
Okay.
Diba?
SOP, sleeping on post.
Sleeping on post. Pero pagdating sa bahay, ayaw matulog. Pagdating sa post, ayaw matulog. Go.
Sa bahay, puro Netflix o ano.
Doon na puyat. So pagdating doon na tulog. Okay, mali. So, ano dapat gawin?
So instantly, at any rule, there's always a rule of, instantly, there's always two notice rule. May tinatawag na two notice rule. Okay? That's the fastest way you can think of the due process prior to termination. May two notice rule. That's important. What is the first notice? Ito. The first written notice to be served on the employee should contain specific causes or grounds for termination against them. And the directive to employee are given the opportunity to submit the written explanation within a reasonable period. In this case, reasonable opportunity under the omnibus rules means every kind of assistance and management must accord to the employee that enable them to prepare adequately for defense. So, Peter, the first written notice, what must it contain? It must contain the specific violation. Diba? You were caught sleeping during the month of October. You were caught sleeping 5 times. And then, and lahat, basta linis talaga.
Correct.
And you were given sufficient warning. You were already given sufficient verbal warnings prior. And then, and considering because you were sleeping, you missed several calls, which almost lost the company. Parang gano'n. Let's say specific dapat eh. Which almost lost the company several accounts were it not for the intervention of your workmates. But or it cost the company, it cost the company, let's say, millions of pesos because these accounts were assigned to you. And but it should be specific. And then you are given 5 days to explain. Please take, and then for strictly speaking with procedure, take note that these violations may lead to your termination. May lead to your termination. You have 5 days, because normally the rules say mga 5 days ang reasonable to explain why you should not be terminated.
Okay.
Why you should not be terminated.
Ano mo nung araw, Attorney JP? Meron lang kami 24 hours to explain.
Ayun, pero right now, I think the industry practice right now is 5 days dapat. Ang reasonable.
5 days.
Okay.
Reasonable yun. Kasi parang 24 hours, parang medyo, again, we're talking about due process, diba? Para at least to level the playing field. 5 days. And then, may hearing din, diba? So look at this. After serving the notice, the employer should schedule a conduct a hearing conference wherein the employee will be given the opportunity to to explain, clarify defenses to charge against him. 2, present evidence in support of the defenses. 3, rebut the pieces of the evidence presented against him by the management. So dapat may right, may hearing din yan. In fact, sa hearing, they can bring a lawyer if they want. Diba? Never ko pa na-experience yun that level, administrative hearing sa labor. Yung nababasa ko lang sa ibang cases na ano ko. But, let's say one of my friends, dati ka-abogado, si Attorney Anghel, he was able to accompany one of, siya naging counsel. So, kumbaga, pa lawyer nga rin during this hearing. To be able to guide. And then, it should be explained to you. You should consider all pieces of evidence. Again, let's say, ganito. My tip during this hearing, try not to be too combative. Defend your rights, yes. Defend your rights. If hindi ka talaga nagkamali, talaga you should defend your rights, diba? And present yung objectively. But if you know na nagkamali ka rin, diba? In this sense, magpakumbaba ka naman. Kung nagkamali ka talaga, and all of those, usually management will be able to, you can soften the hearts, but it can be mitigating. But again, you have the right to present your lawyer. You have the right, diba? Dapat i-present mo. Hindi yan totoo. So you present, I was never sleeping in the job. Diba? Right. If you notice, kumbaga, it was only reported by these instances wherein you base your saying I was sleeping was reported by, let's say, someone's ganito supervisor, but in fact nakuha mo, you can show that you were not sleeping pala on the job.
Nag-sign off the cross, di ba, Mike? Ganun yung
iba naman yun.
Magpakumbaba eh. Nung nahuli natutulog, nag-sign off the cross, hindi pa natutulog, nagdadasal daw. Allegedly, nagdadasal daw.
Okay, may isang page kasi. May isang page ba si Attorney JP? At
go.
In the next page.
In that line rin, diba? Short joke time muna sandali. Yung iba naman, yung lusot naman, habang nakaganon, umiyak ka. Parang biglang umiyak ka. Para mapaya, akala niya umiyak pala. Hindi natutulog. Sorry.
Go.
Ayun. So, ayun. Sige, jokes aside.
Yes.
Jokes aside. Ayun. So, what happens after that administrative hearing? Ayun. So, a second notice. The second notice, after the hearing, management has decided, let's say it found your explanation unfit, and after further investigation, your piece of evidence do not match with the actual facts. So we have no other option but to terminate your services. Ayun. So those are the two notice requirement. Notice one, there's a possibility of being terminated for what? Diba? So there's a possibility of being terminated because of, so that in essence, ay yung dapat yung mabasa mo sa first notice na manatatanggap mo. Diba? And then yung third, yung notice of termination, pinaliwanag mo, pero hindi siya, it's not enough. Or we can't accept your excuse, para ganon. But again, it must be justified talaga.
Okay.
Diba? Problem is, again, I'll discuss certain cases, nakatanggap lang muna ng first notice, hindi na magpapakita, tapos magpa-file ng labor case. Diba? Mali yun. Parang you're preempting anything. Ina-assume mo kaagad na terminated ka na. Or, yung ginagawa ng iba, alam ko mata-terminate talaga, unahan ko na ng kaso. Diba? Pang-uuna. That shouldn't be the case. Always, in any case, you can use technicalities, ganun rin eh. Diba? Always wait for the second notice of termination. Diba? Before you do anything.
Diba? Huwag nilang ulitin. Naman, you're caught sleeping again.
Parang gano'n.
Naman, diba? Be able to prevent it din naman. And siguro nga sa agency, ganun. Remember, we employed tayo sa agency and the agency is committing to deliver a certain serbisyo to the client. So pag natutulog tayo or sa iba nga, nagse-cellphone tayo ng hindi part ng job natin is we're not delivering the service. Kung tayo din naman yun, di ba, nagpapagawa ka ng bahay, tapos nagse-cellphone yung karpintero mo, yung nag-welding mo, hindi ba natapos talaga yung bahay mo? So lugi ka din. Ayun. So great explanation yun. Para malinaw na sa iba. Yo.
Right. Attorney JP, Brother Louie, there's a couple more questions si Bernie Siniel. Pero gusto ko sanang baka pwede natin ito sagutin before we close kasi yung topics ngayon is we need to lay down first all of the things na meron dito sa lecture ni Attorney JP. Once we have finished this, pupunta tayo doon sa ating last quarter of our program. Pupunta tayo sa dalawang question ni Bernie Siniel. Kasi ito kailangan to siguro mga 10 to 15 minutes explanation to eh. Paliwanag. So Attorney JP, let's continue on our before we go on our last commercial.
Okay. So alam na yung procedure, 'di ba? Na so first brief recap lang of the procedure. Two notice rule. First notice must tell what violation it did. And any violation dapat one of the just causes. Diba? And then the first notice must also include what possible penalty which will be meted upon you. But in this case, termination. You will be terminated. You have opportunity to explain. And then dapat may hearing. Not necessarily hearing, but as long as you are given the opportunity to explain your side. Diba? Let's say kung mga papeles, okay lang yun. Basta may opportunity ka to defend yourself. Diba? To protect your job. And then the second notice is that notice of termination. Okay? Kung kulang yan dala, kung walang notice, to second notice, kulang first notice in a sense, pero in a way, hindi na siya pwede nakatrabaho doon. That is a violation of due process. Tapos may may penalty yun in a sense, may penalty yun. Okay. Pero may sinasabi rin, may other instances yung may preventive suspension. Normally, you can't suspend a person outrightly. Diba? Preventive suspension. But in a sense that there's parameters though, you can preventively suspend someone. The employer may place the worker concerned under preventive suspension only if his continued employment poses a serious and imminent threat to the life and property of the employer of his coworkers. let's say records keeper siya, he's assigned to hide yung mga important records, di ba? Custodian siya ng records, or may access siya sa vital information which was subject of what he's being investigated for. He can be suspended, yung preventive suspension, because it prevents imminent threat to the property. And how long? Diba? 30 days. Hindi pwede lalampas ng 30 days. Kasi kunyari magulang naman yung employee, pinalampas yun ng 30 days. Hindi pwede. Beyond the 30 days, parang may bayad. Within preventive suspension, walang bayad yan eh. Pero, what if you were preventively suspended, but it was determined that hindi ka naman sabwat talaga. Wala kang ginawang violation. You'll be entitled to your pay that you were, during the time you were preventively suspended. It's not a penalty. Tapos is already a judge guilty. And then, may sinasabi rin yung floating status. Diba? Because of the Department Order 215 series of 2020. Alam naman natin ngayon, yung COVID pandemic, diba? So you have to look at the bigger picture rin, diba? There are some industries that are still struggling right now. Diba? Nahihirapan sila. So, it's expended 6 months. Usually yung floating status na sinasabi, 6 months lang. So what right now? 1 year. Up to 1 year na yung floating status. Tapos may sinasabi rin si Mike kanina, and baka masagot ko na rin what is constructive dismissal. Parang let's say ako, sinasabi, let's say yung cameraman, balik tayo, let's say si Peter naman, si Peter the cameraman, but in a way that how he's being treated at work. Imbis na he's being treated in such a hostile way that it's making him parang ayaw na niya work doon. Kunyari sinasadya that he's treated in such a way that will make it hostile for him to be there or unwanted there. In a sense,
hindi na healthy working environment.
It's purposely created in that way to target you.
Para let's say
let's say lahat ng araw ginawa ng Diyos. Kunin mong tubig, kunin mong let's say example mo rin, at first time, okay sir, no problem. Syempre, mabait ka naman.
Yeah.
And then naging habit na. Ayun, in a way that can be constructive dismissal. Other cases, parang lilipat siya sa isang let's say executive siya, pero lilipat siya yung office niya, let's say high market, long time office niya dati, let's say malaki, big enough naman. So for some reason, doon na lilipat yung desk mo, broom closet. Hindi ka tinerminate.
Bartolina, ang dating.
Tapos iba na yung trabaho mo, hindi na necessarily normally you have the supervision, you have the managerial power constraints. Ngayon na-limit na.
Oo.
Sabi ka pa ng basura naka-opisina.
Oo. And then, parang ganun. Let's say, in a way, yung block ng basura, doon tinatapon si area mo. That can be constructive dismissal. Diba?
Pwede na siyang i-consider as constructive dismissal.
And if you look at if it's purposeful, if it's purposeful, you have to do it if it's purposeful talaga. It has to be targeted at you. It's dismissal in disguise. Parang they're egging you to resign. I would argue for that, diba?
So pag ganun pala, meron kang mga nasa site na magano'ng disposition, pwede mo yan i-file sa labor as a constructive dismissal for your protection. Tama ba yun, Attorney JP?
Oo.
So as long as ma-justify mo.
Oo. Basta you can and then our various arbiters will have different views on this. Believe me. So in labor cases, talaga kasi again, it's no fault, but it's by the nature of things. It's how it's presented and how it's viewed rin. Diba? It's how it's framed. If you can frame it properly, why? Diba? For the number of years, I was for a number of years, even it connected this, yung security guard, diba? Again, we'll go to Sir Bernie's question kasi interesting rin siya. He had a very nice insight. But again, if you look at
Oh, pero bago tayo pumunta dun sa question niya, kasi dumami na ng dumami, 3 na yung tanong ni
Oo.
Bernie dito eh. At ayoko namang dumami ng dumami.
Yeah, sayang,
So,
sayang eh.
it actually has something to do with what
Yeah.
you're saying, Attorney JP.
Oo.
Pero baka pwede na natin okay na, is this, may karugtong pa ba ito, Attorney JP, yung slide mo?
Actually, wala na. Wala na. I can, it's open for questions at least para mas
Yeah.
ma-brew yung pinag-uusapan
Lipat na
natin.
tayo doon sa mga concerns nila, lalo na yung kay Bernie Siniel. Pero bago yan, babalik tayo. We'll just break a little para
Okay.
magkaroon tayo ng breather. Patapos, you can read through the comments and babalik tayo. Pa-drop lang ako nung slide, Attorney JP. So, we get a full screen at wag po kayong alis, magbabalik po kami. In pinakamaikling break lang, siguro mga 30 seconds o eto na.
Kayo po ay nakikinig sa palatuntunan ni Mike de la Guardia DATUIN sa DWDD Armed Forces Radio.
Ako po si Bong Lebriha, ang head ng EDSA Special Traffic and Transport Zone ng MMDA. Kayo po ay nakikinig sa Anghel de Guardia ni Mike DATUIN. Samahan niyo po kami.
Hello, magandang araw po. Ako po si Congressman Mike Aglipay ng DIWA Party List. Ako po ay nag-imbita sa inyo na manood ng Anghel La Guardia sa DWDD tuwing Sabado mula alas 3 hanggang 5 ng hapon. Maraming salamat po.
Okay, yun na yung ating commercial para maikling-maikli lang. Binabati ko lang yung ating mga sumubaybay, watching Mayeth Roque, Mark Gaho Bonete, Zaldi Matito, Melchor Raval, Christopher Cruz, Arlene Perez Garrido, Noli Sumangil, sabi niya, Noli Sumangil, Boss Mike, Yahoo! Maganda gabi. Of course, si Dr. Loy Reyes is watching. Miranda Greg watching from Angono, Rizal. At Dr. Loy Reyes, good evening daw. And Crossline is also watching. No? And Chris Palculan. Okay, going to our question. Meron tayo dito yung... Meron siyang isa pang question bago dyan eh. Gusto ko lang baka hindi natin nabanggit kanina. Sabi ni Bernie, at Article 282, now Article 297, provide the just causes for termination of employment. However, the practice now is you will be advised to report to the office and you're done without due process. How do we apply due process on this scenario? Yung nabanggit kanina ni Attorney JP, Sir Bernie, habang pinaliliwanag niya yung just cause, I think that applies on that. So para hindi na tayo mag-expound, punta tayo dun sa isa mo pang tanong. When you said Dole Circular, ito na yung sagot niya doon sa nire-route ko sa Dole 150-16. Sabi niya, Dole Circular 150-16 was good and really helped our security guards. However, the security of tenure of security guards usually depend on the term of contract, his security agency with the client. But paano kung natapos na ang contract ng agency at hindi nakakuha ng bagong kliyente ang kanyang agency? At hindi siya na-deploy, lumagpas ng 6 na buwan, can he file a complaint of constructive dismissal against his agency? Siguro yun muna, Attorney JP.
Right now, remember the off-detail status. 1 year, naano siya ng 1 year. But this may be enlightening because there is a case. Wait, I'll share lang briefly.
Kasi yung while you're looking for it, Attorney JP.
It's here. It's already here. Okay, sige, ikaw muna.
Cite ko lang yung sa 150-16 kasi yan yung basis ngayon na i-train na lahat ng mga lawyers as Secretary Coqueco in one seminar shared, na na-train na lahat ng mga arbiters ng Department of Labor kapag may case yan 150-16 ang basis nila ng kanilang pag-observe nung case ng private security practitioner. Go ahead, Attorney JP. Yun lang.
Ayun, sige. If you look at this, how do I share? In sharing screen ko.
That's with me na. Okay. Go ahead.
Ayun. First sentence, a security guard placed on reserve of detailed status is deemed constructively dismissed only if the status should last more than 6 months. Any claim of constructive dismissal must be established by clear and positive evidence. Sige, so you can stop sharing. I'll show you that this is the case of Spectrum Security Services versus David Grave, GR 196650, June 7, 2017. This was decided by penned by Justice Bersamin. He's a brilliant in labor, is one of his
right.
Pero bumagsak ako sa bar niya. But kidding, the thing is, yung 6 months, again, if it's beyond 6 months or right now beyond 1 year, pwede constructive dismissal. The thing with this with the DOLE order right now, it will not prevent you, di ba yung 1 year floating status, it will not prevent you from looking for other jobs. It allows you to do that. So, di ba, I have an issue because with this normal issue, if you're left in floating status, hindi ka pwede maghanap ng ibang parang you're constrained. But this one, it in fact encourages This was thought of to be able to mitigate, para there's no need, sayang lang yung mga benefits na acquire mo throughout the years of service with that. Parang it mitigates the situation that we have right now.
Right.
Parang ganun. And then may isang question, yung pagtulog kasi ni guard ay tantamount to gross neglect of duty. Tama. Because by the nature of his work. Yet procedural and substantive due process dapat observe pa rin. Yes. Kailangan pa antayin makakommit siya ng paulit-ulit ang trabaho or outright pwede siyang i-terminate. Again, you can't be outrightly terminate. Due process always, di ba?
Okay. Bago na ba yung bagong ni Bernie?
Oo.
Ang pagtulog ng guard ay tantamount to gross neglect of duty because by the nature of his work, yet procedural and substantive due process dapat i-observe pa rin. Pero kailangan antayin, nakakommit siya ng paulit-ulit na pagtulog sa trabaho or outright, pwede rin siya i-terminate. Lalo na kung may mga aggravating circumstances.
I think, again, if always, like I said, due process, kailangan palaging i-exercise. Ayun yung right ng employee. Diba? The 2-notice rule. Gross neglect of duty, diba? Natutulog ka sa that should be there, explained, and then you should begin, bakit ka natutulog? Or because of that, dahil natutulog ka, nanakaw yung Lamborghini ng boss, ng ng kliyente natin.
Exactly.
Tapos, yung painting na napakamahal, napunit ng nagnanakaw. Parang gano'n. It should be there. O those are aggravating.
Or padagdag na, antayin ba natin na mahuli siyang natutulog ulit, tapos yung Benz na ang manakaw. Kunyari may ganun pa, 'di ba? So, antay pa ba natin na lumala, 'di ba? Dapat magawa ng paraan yun sa unang tulog pa lang dahil painting at Lamborghini na yun.
No, you're talking about different day. Na nakatulog siya.
I guess.
Kasi Attorney JP, yung sinasabi ni Louie kasi, ni partner Louie, is different day na. So, kumbaga, nakagawa na siya nung 3 days ago, nung nakatulog na siya 3 days ago na wala yung Lamborghini. 3 days after, nakatulog na naman siya, nawala naman yung Mercedes-Benz.
Na-misplaced. So, I guess, in that instance, di ba, yung order usually sa security guard, return to detail, return to, yung order, what's that industry practice called again? Yung return to the agency?
Yeah, return to
office.
unit. RTU, in-issuean sila ng RTU, pending
RTU,
investigation.
30 investigation, ganun. And then during that, syempre, yung
Hindi muna siya pumapasok.
pero dun muna siya and explain. He has to explain. That's where the due process will kick in.
5 days. Yun yung process. Na-issuean siya ng RTU kasi kailangan yung issuean muna yung guard. Hindi mo lang pwede verbally sabihin sa kanya, malis ka dito, report ka daw sa hindi ka nagustuhan ng nakawala ka ng Mercedes-Benz. Hindi, it must be written. The officer must write it, and then he will conduct his initial assessment prior to talking to the guard and sending him to reporting to unit, but after the shift, not during the shift. Kasi pag during the shift, he or she may cause harm to the client property. So dapat after duty mo na siya, tatawagin mo siya para kasi baka mamaya may baril yan eh. So dapat tatawagin mo siya after duty.
But in a sense,
mo, may dala siyang slip. And you have to communicate it to the agency, to the operations manager, prior to and to the HR and admin.
Ako, good point ako. Umatras lang ako, tinitignan ko yung points of view ng dalawa. Baka kasi may mindset yung security guard na nawala yung mahaling sasakyan. Return to unit ka. Feeling niya, dun siya natanggal. Hindi ka terminated dun. Nasa agency ka pa rin. Ang agency, ang employment mo po. Gagawa lang nila ng action.
That is the responsibility. That is why yung sinabi ko kanina on the first part of our program, yung malaki yung percentage ng officer na hindi nila alam that time na, alam mo, kasama sa responsibility mo na you must assess the situation prior to executing a management decision or a supervisory decision. You must be sound in that judgment and you know how the process works for the agency because you are the representative of the agency in that detachment. So kaya nga ikaw yung commander, kung tawagin, officer in charge. So you are working for, in any administrative cases, ito I'm talking about as a security practitioner, as a former security guard, as a former shift in charge, as a former detachment commander, as a former inspector, investigator, and operations officer and manager. Yung process must be represented by whoever is leading the troop. Kasi administrative ka eh. You are the representative of the agency in that place na kung saan they call it as a detachment, a client post. Therefore, babantayan mo ang safety ng client at ang due process ng agency. You cannot just be irresponsible enough to say, hoy, tinanggal mo yung ganito, ganyan, pinagmumura mo yung guardia kasi feeling mo superior ka. Tapos sinabi mo sa kanya, umalis ka nga dyan, mag-report ka mamaya sa agency. 1:00 ng hapon. Mag-duty pa yun. Ikaw mamaya, you didn't treat him properly. You didn't talk to him.
Demoralized agad.
Properly. So, para hindi na siya mag-recidivist o hindi na siya makadagdag pa, hindi na siya makapag-add insult to the injury, ika nga, you must, talk to him calmly para matapos niya yung shift niya or prerogative mo, i-pull out na siya, pauwiin na siya, pero kailangan mo ng kapalit sa kanya.
Yes, to deliver the service.
You have to balance your responsibility prior to. And you must do it juridically. Pag-paalisin mo siya, na i-coordinate mo na doon sa mga officers mo. Hindi yung bigla-bigla mo na lang paaalisin na wala kang coordination. Pagdating naman sa opisina, sabihin, bakit ka nandito? Di ba dapat nasa sir, pinag-report po ako ni tatawag sa yung operations manager sa'yo bago niya malaman kung bakit nag-report doon yung guardia, which is not supposed to be the case. Dapat alam na ng agency that this guard is issued an RTU, return to unit, because of the following concerns. Prior to you sending him there, you must do your prior communication and coordination. Normally kasi, hindi alam ng opisina, so si guard naghihintay doon maghapon, tapos yung mga tao sa opisina ng agency, lahat sila nagpapasahan. 3 araw na pabalik-balik yung guard, hindi pa siya napoproseso, which technically, violates his due process dahil hanggat hindi siya na-issue ng notice to explain, hindi tumatakbo yung 5 days. Is that right, Sir Attorney?
Again, it's a management prerogative. Again, yung management, diba? It will determine how good management is. It will determine how good human resources is. If they are able to follow all the procedures, which Boss Mike was able to say, diba? You prevent a lot of issues talaga, a lot of labor issues can sometimes be traced, not necessarily always sabihin natin labor is fault. Hindi, but may management, may issues din yan.
Oo.
But, di ba, mitigation will always be the key. But again, in all cases dapat, di ba, yung due process, in the general sense, not specific to the security industry, again, yung two-notice rule. I forgot to discuss this. This is very important rin.
Yeah.
Paano kung hindi na-follow yung due process? Yung sinatawag sa substantive, illegal dismissal yun, di ba?
Oo.
Anong consequences? Ano yung consequences? Kunyari, wala palang just causes. Pwede siyang either i-rehire or he can apply for he can be awarded for back pay. Briefly ganyan. And then another one is paano kung hindi na-follow ang procedural due process? Diba? In our case, just cause. Pero may just cause naman talaga. Let's say si security guard na natutulog, na nawala ng Benz, yung nakaw ng Benz, nasira ng painting. Definitely we all agree na just cause yun, diba? Pero hindi na-follow yung procedural due process. So may konting entitlement pa rin siya. May ma-award na pera sa kanya because procedural due process was not followed. In the case of
pero rest assured lang na due process, doon ikaw, kung security guard, ikaw at agency mo ang mag-uusap. May iba kasi bumabalik doon sa may-ari ng bench, tinanggal niyo daw po ako. Hindi po yun. Diba? Make sure that andun na bigyan ka ng due process ng agency mo kung security guard to na pinag-uusapan natin. And make sure you know your rights from there.
Yes. Basta remember, substantive due process ay yung mga grounds kung bakit ka na-terminate. Yung procedural due process, kung paano ka terminate. Diba? Yung two-notice rule. Kung hindi nasundan yung two-notice rule, walang procedural due process. Kung walang basis naman na tinanggal, at tinanggal ka, that is substantial due process. So those two go hand in hand. But again, there's a new one second with the new law. But we'll wait. I'll explain once ma-pass siya. Pero sa Congress, okay na siya. Kay batas yun ni CONG Mike. Ayun, parang nawala si Sir Mike. Ayun, so I think that's a good I hope I was able to help.
Andito pa ako nagpupunas lang ako ng mukha, ayokong malagay sa video.
Makeup.
Nagre-retouch lang. These are good points, Attorney JP. And yes, yun na nga, yun isa din pupuntahan natin eh. May mga na-amend sa na mga procedures dito which improved the condition of the working security. Lalo na dito sa bagong gawa ni Attorney Mike, ni Congressman Mike and ng iba pang mga nag-contribute doon sa bagong batas, no? Na sana hopefully maipasa sa Senado at ito yung maging ganap na revision. Pero maraming tumututol, but at may iba ng mga tumututol na nakakalungkot. Pero to what interest would it be more beneficial if it is for the employee and employer? Alam mo yun? Ako, I don't want to say na meron kasing ganito, meron kasing ganyan. But the point being is, it must be on those parameters that it would be passed. Na-serve ba yung naprotektahan ba yung karapatan ng laborer? At naprotektahan din ba yung interest nung employer? Kasi at the end of the day, they must they must complement. At napakaganda nun nung information na yun na lumalabas. Meron pang tanong si Sir Bernie huli. Attorney JP, paano naman, wait lang Attorney JP, paano naman yung guard na pagkatapos ng kontrata ng kanyang agency sa kanyang kliyente ay sumipot lang minsan sa agency? Tapos, after 6 months or 1 year, ay nasa NLRC na at nag-file na ng complaint for constructive dismissal.
Medyo kulang yung tanong. But again, we go to the case. Diba? Actually, any claim of constructive dismissal must be established by clear and positive evidence. Diba?
Oo.
Bakit mo sinasabi na constructive dismissal ka? Diba? Because I'm basing it lang based on how we asked na minsan sumipot. So kung bakit siya, diba, you should be able to back up whatever your claim is with evidence. Yung more, if it's more specific. Well, I can't because specifics. Maraming his question can play out so many ways.
Right. So regardless,
but the best way,
regardless doon sa regardless doon sa position nung tao, basta may karapatan siya mag-file. Whether 3 days lang siya or whatever. Now, it's the facts that will determine the decision of the case, no? Tama ba?
Evidence.
The evidence. Kung may case ka,
ebidensya. I-prove it. Diba?
Naalala ko, merong isang case na na-experience ko eh. So, nagpunta ng arbiter, nag-file ng labor. Pinatawag pareho. Oh, seryoso ba kayo rito? Hindi nyo ba maayos to? Ano na to? Diretso na to. So, tapos final. Hindi na kami mag-aayos. File na kami. Okay, so file. Magbibigay kayo ng position. So, on the position, di ba, lalagay niya yung mga ebidensya ron, yung bakit mo ganito, bakit mo kinocomplain sa ganito, kinocomplain, babasahin naman yun eh. Pag nagsubmit kayo sa unang, babasahin yung position nung nagpa-file. So, pag nabasa na nung kinakasuhan yung accusation niya, ito, nakakasuhan ka ni ganito na ganyan, defend yourself. Diba? Yes. Tapos ikaw naman, patunayan mo talagang inano ka. So, there's time, no? Mahaba yung time na, ano ba yung una sa Sena, diba, no? Attorney JP. Sa Sena ka naman. Pag-uusapin kayo na, gabyado mo daw to, bayaran mo. Ano ba hinihingi mo? Ito hinihingi niya amount. Mag-usap kayo. Pag hindi kayo nag-usap, decision na nung complainant na i-file to. So, bahala ka nang mag-depensa pagkatapos na mag-file. So, I think the right is there, no? The right is very obvious, but there is time. There's ample time for everyone's right to be heard. At yung na-experience ko lang kasi, Attorney JP, nakakalungkot lang, is ang daming kadugasan na ginawa nung kinomplain. No, naawa ako doon sa employer, as a employee, na wala siyang capability to it's a tricky situation. That's why we always recommend that get a lawyer para talagang mabantayan yung yung karapatan mo at hindi ka maiwan sa limbo. Di ba, Attorney JP?
Actually, I both defended and then I both, diba? I know both sides eh. Na-experience ko na yung both in complainant and then yung mga respondent, diba? Tulad yung procedure doon, like a brief explaining procedure. Una this was pre-pandemic Pre-pandemic, una lapit ka muna Sena. And then they'll try to make it, tulad sinabi mo, they'll try to make them settle. If hindi magkaayusan, mag-i-issue na sila, okay, you have a clearance to file case. Next step, pwede ka na punta sa labor. And you file your case, parang sheet of paper lang yon. Let's say si Peter versus Peter Reyes versus XYZ Security Agency or XYZ Corporation. And then tapos si Paul Santos ng management. Ayun. So, parang pro forma lang yan eh. Parang checklist. Anong kino-complain mo? Hindi nagbabayad ng 13th month. Walang overtime pay. Tapos ayun, in this case, since we're talking about dismissal, illegal dismissal. Ayun. So, ito, pagpa-file na yan, papadalhan yung si Paul Santos at yung XYZ Corporation ng summons, ng subpoena, parang this is for voluntary, parang conciliation, mandatory conciliation. This time, si arbiter magsusubok, anong demanda mo? Diba? They'll try to fix things. This will, if you go back to the conciliation provisions, as much possible, conciliation, kasi kung pinahaba mo yung mga situations, mas mahirap talaga eh. Pera, maraming mawawala. So that's why as much as possible, yung conciliation is the key. But since hindi mangyayari, doon papasok yung mga position papers in the labor arbiters level. So mahabang procedure pa yan. Pero let's stop it at that. That's another time.
Galing. Ang natutunan. Kahit si Sir Bernie, maraming salamat yung nasa dulo, Bro Mike, di ba? Maraming salamat, Bro Mike.
You know, but sige, bro, bakibasa lang yung ni partner.
Yes, maraming salamat, Bro Mike, Sir Louie at Attorney JP for enlightening us on management, prerogative, and labor laws affecting the security industry. Maraming salamat, Anghel de la Guardia, for providing a venue for a discussion like this. Yeah.
Nagpapasalamat tayo sa DIWA party list spared time, and yan yung advocacy nila eh. Yan yung advocacy din natin. So nagkakapareho tayo ng advocacy, especially in the private security industry, and we appreciate, and this is one way para marinig natin na at malaman natin na yung DIWA party list is doing what they have promised to do. Not just hindi lang siya naiiwan sa campaign. Alam mo yun, kasi it's beyond politics. DIWA party list. So for me, ako, I'm a member of DIWA party list. Why? Because I believe in it. There are many whatever accusation, but once you see it working, that is when you start feeling the benefit of it. May mga batas na ginagawa. May mga, right now, Attorney JP, anong posisyon ni Congressman Mike ngayon sa ating sa Congress ngayon?
Well, he's a chair of the Blue Ribbon Committee ng House of Representatives. So
diba? I mean, chair of the Blue Ribbon Committee. So ethics to, no? We're talking about how many congressmen those are, and plus good governance. Tama ba, Attorney JP?
That's it. Yung Blue Ribbon Committee focuses on good governance, diba? He can
ng buong bansa, ng lahat ng government.
In relation to how basta good governance, which is galing. It's because one of the passions of Kong Mike is anti-corruption. Galit siya sa corrupt. No, that's why bagay na bagay sa kanya yung committee na to. Parang anti-corruption rin.
So, and this is the first term. So what more on the second, what more on the third? So we're very anxious to know. Ako as a member, I'm very anxious to know and to expose, to share to our private security practitioners. Kasi ganun. Well, whatever our beliefs are in endorsing the politician or the party, that is within the person. But what I can say as a advocate is I benefit one way or the other, no? In yun nga, kailangan wise ka sa pag-elect. I mean, ba't ko naman iboboto ang nursing party list kung hindi naman ako nurse? Alam mo, how is it going to benefit me? Bakit ako boboto nung ganitong karpintero party list kung hindi naman ako karpintero? Alam mo yun, I'm a dependent worker. I'm an independent worker. So as an independent worker, and if I see that I'm benefiting to this party list that I understand, well, first kasi you have to understand the party list. You cannot just, boto ko to kasi sikat. You have to be smart. Diba? Panahon ngayon, smart voter ka na. Dapat, diba? I mean, hello, pumasok ang pandemya, nag-benefit ka ba? Parang lumala pa nga yata yung sitwasyon mo. Hindi nakapagtrabaho yung kusino yung sa tingin mo. Diba? But kung nakapagtrabaho yung binoto mo at nag-benefit ka, then I think that's the best justification to support more those particular offices. And ako, I'm very appreciative because there are things, no? The industry is divided into so many associations, so many industry practitioners. I speak for ako as the Security Guards Association of the Philippines. Napakaraming sitwasyon na talagang palagi nalalagay sa maling disposisyon. At napapanood naman natin, may mga sikat na television programs dyan na palaging sumbungan. At gusto aksyon, medyo parang talagang sugod. Ganun na yung laban. But you have to be a thinking employee. You have to be a thinking worker. Hindi naman pwedeng kasi high school lang natapos. Regardless, you have a family. You cannot use poverty and ignorance as an excuse, di ba? Ignorance of the law excuses no one. Tama ba, Attorney Jim?
Yes.
So all you have to do is just find out, alamin mo lang kung yung lugar na, yung mga batas ba na kung saan ka nagtatrabaho ay pro sa'yo, ano ba ang mali? Di i-share mo kung sino man yung nakikita mo na nagpa-practice nun and be protected. There's so many associations of the security guards na rin, Attorney JP, just to let you know. And most of them are good in their intentions. Pero like any other groups, there are also others that are bad intentions, like money, schemes, or whatever, which places security guards in a vulnerable disposition. So it is only but right that we, together with my program, our program, ni Brother Louie, sama natin si Brother Louie na rito binrief ko muna siya Okay ba sa'yo? Kasi, I have to respect the rights of our viewers and the rights of our hosts and our broadcasters whenever they talk to or endorse a party political disposition yan So in the belief of DIWA, meaning that we believe that we have to really share this to the public, to the guards, to the practitioners. Parang ito si Bert Pedro. Sabi ni Bert Pedro, pa-shout out po sa Association of Security Brotherhood of the Philippines. That's another association of security guards. Sabi rin ni Feli Rial, good evening po, Sir Mike and Sir Louie. I'm late. Keep safe and both of you, God bless. So, nangalaman na nila ngayon yung wisdom ng DIWA party list, yung DIWA nyo, Attorney JP, and how you handle things. Now, in the office of DIWA party list under the representation of Congressman Michael Edgar Aglipay. Attorney JP, now na napag-usapan na natin yung due process in the workplace. Kamusta naman ang activities ng DIWA? Siguro in a nutshell, baka may bago lang tayo dyan, baka may update tayo dyan ng activities nyo. At mga dalawa lang, tatlo.
Right now, there's a recent payoff. I'll show you. If you go to our to our page sa Facebook, I'll share the screen now. Share screen. There.
Sabihin ko lang kay Ate Feli. Ate Feli, kahapon sa usapang PhilHealth pwede ka na daw doon sa dapat mong gawin. Gawin mo na daw at report ka lang kasi kung nasa senior ka, diretso ka na, magpunta ka na lang sa nearest PhilHealth mo, dyan daw sa Kainta. Review mo yung program kahapon, may sinabi silang pangalan, yun ang hanapin mo. Tapos sabihin mo daw na pinadala ka ni Sir Mon Acoba. At okay ka na, pwede ka nang magpa-ano ng iyong katarata.
Wow, nice. Sabi ko natutunan Yun naman sa talagang party list. Actually, representative. So what is that? If your ideology or if your area is representative, diba? So that's your voice.
JP, your update?
Ayun, so one thing recently there's a DIWA party list payout, tapos it was with Sir Jack Gadon. This was
Olonga po. Si Sir Jack.
Sir Jack. Tapos Sir Jack Ayun, so may mga educational
Hi, Sir
assistants,
Jack.
100. Sir Jack, nakikinig. Ayun. So 116 education sa mga financial assistance to. And then 8 medical, 17 burial. So to be able to serve around 141 constituents today. So an amount of 500,000 pesos yung payout for
Attorney
them.
JP. Ano ko lang, may sinare si Brother Bernie Sinyel. Kasi bro Mike, ang approach ng Anghel de la Guardia at DIWA ay solution, through resolution. Approach, hindi head-on.
Yan.
Napakaganda.
Well
Thank you,
said.
Brother.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. That's ano. Ayun,
That's
so
exactly.
and then another thing, I won't preempt it now, pero teaser na lang. May other substitute. Last time I shared yung MEA, di ba? Medicines for Easy Access.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's another one which is connected with COVID. In a sense, it's a parang lecture series na gagawin namin. But I won't preempt it. Pero once ma-launch, doon ko ipapakita rin sa inyo. But it's something...
Pag na-launch, i-lecture na rin natin on air.
I'll tell them, it's in connection. Siyempre, I'll i-share ko sa inyo yung ginagawa namin na yun. But so this is connection with, diba, again, since, aside from that, na one of the passions, even since USEC-M's time as representative for DIWA, may mga medical missions, and may mga other missions. We weren't able to do that right now. Hirap, COVID eh. So how can we, aside from the medicines for your easy access, which I shared with you 2 weeks ago,
yeah.
May parang series kami gagawin wherein we'll educate people on what to do with people na may COVID, diba, in the household. Right. Something like that. Basta diba? But it's dahil hirap talaga, COVID, maski na marami ng vaccines.
But tama-tama, linya rin ni Brother Louie yan, yung life safety.
Yes.
Yun. Sige, basta once ma-launch to, I'll share it with you guys here. Diba? It's a very good activity rin eh. Pero kamusta pala? Na-vaccine na ba kayo? Or ano?
Ako, naka-schedule pa lang.
Hindi pa? Wala
Hindi
pa.
Sure, naka-schedule pa lang. Merong schedule dito sa LGU. I think yung ibang meron na. Yeah.
Healthy daw tayo masyado eh. So di pa raw natin unahin muna yung mga ibang less healthy.
Pero papatingin ko lang yung LGU ng Taytay is doing a great work under the leadership of Mayor Jory Cacula. Maraming salamat, Mayor. At lalo na doon sa mga ayudas, yung mga pinamimigay na mga ayuda. It's very the flow is proper, it's right. May mga police na nakalagay doon and na-observe naman yung social distancing and what have you.
Buti sa Taytay pala. Ayun, so I have to tell, dahil may dati akong kasambahay, nag-retire na, she lives in Taytay. Hindi ko alam kung nagpa-vaccine. Basta may list, pwede na magpalista sa inyo?
Yeah, oo. Pa-PM mo na lang sa akin, Attorney JP, para ma-forward ko sa doon sa proper informations. Pero magpunta siya sa portal ng Taytay Public Information Office at mababasa niya ron doon sa Facebook yung mga informations na dapat niya malaman.
Ay good, kasi senior na to eh. Pero syempre dati as in naging kasambahay namin siya mga grade. Wala pang double digits ang edad ko. So tagal na, 7 years. So so talagang she was long time with our family. And ayun, at least I'd encourage her, dapat everyone talaga magpa-vaccinate as much. Whatever's available, di ba?
Coordinate lang siya. Online, baka may anak siya or apo siya na pwede niyang tanungin ng konti. Anak, ano ba ang online information center ng Taytay? I-type lang niya, and the public information is there. Sabi, punta daw, sabi ni Ate Feli Rian, sabi niya, senior citizen, nasa Office of the Senior Citizen kasi si Ate Feli eh. sa office po namin sa Kalayaan, pwede siya pumunta. O, ayan.
Ayun, sige, thank you.
JP.
Thank you, ma'am. Sige, sabihan ko siya. Parang
Ayan,
kulitan ko siya
sabi ni Ate
magpa-vaccine.
Feli, may mga form po kami para sa vaccine. O, ayan.
Ayan, sige, thank you. I'll make sure to tell.
Attorney JP, as always, we have now reached the portion of our show that we have to part ways and, invite our listeners to our next schedule and our next topic. Ano ba ang mayroon? At ano ba ang mayroon ang DIWA Party List at ano ang mensahe ng ating magiting Congressman Michael Edgar Aglipay? Go ahead.
As always, it's an honor to speak and to speak and to talk about yung mga labor rights right now. One of the greatest passions of Sir Mike and DIWA, diba, is for the labor rights. With regards to safety, always keep safe. Lalo na ngayon sa pandemic, diba? There's nothing more important than being healthy and being safe with your family. And we wish you that. And hopefully, as public servants, we won't let you down, and we will always do our best to make sure that you get the service that you deserve as constituents. Keep safe, guys, and always remember, pag pwede ka magpa-vaccine, whatever vaccine's available, that's what you get. Okay, don't be picky right now. Ayun. So
Brother
guys,
Louie,
stay safe.
Thank you, Attorney JP. Thank you,
Thank you.
Brother Louie.
So I'll see you.
Thank you, Attorney. Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
sige,
Okay, sige, I'll see. Good night, guys. Thank you again.
Good night. Okay.
Sana
night.
wag kayo masawa sa amin. Sige. Thank you.
Oo naman.
Sarap kasama.
Oo naman.
Daming matutunan.
Okay.
Thank you.
In-invite
Okay,
mo na ba
see you.
sila, Attorney JP, next week?
Next
Tuesday.
Ayun, I'll try again. Siguro every Tuesday. Sige, i-PM ko si Sir Mike, or baka mayroon kayong gustong malaman, PM nyo lang siya para sabihin sa akin so I can talk about it. Whether labor
Yeah.
law or other stuff which may interest you. So I'll
Pili
share
ka na
please.
ng mag-draw, mag-raffle, bunot-bunot ka na lang ng topic doon.
Sige.
On labor laws and the protection of rights.
Okay, sige.
Yeah.
I'll make sure that. But so in something to labor and protection of your rights. Okay? So again,
Thank you,
thank you
Attorney
guys.
JP.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Great night.
Ayan, si Attorney JP. At,
Galing.
yes, brother.
Yes. Sa akin, siguro ang take away ko dito talaga, it's the wisdom that's always shared through your program, Mike. Kaya kung may oras po tayo, tulad yan, may oras tayong manood ng mga movie online, mga ganyan, bakit hindi ka magbasa tungkol sa karapatan mo? Alamin mo kung ano yung pwede mong magawa at hindi pwedeng gawin sa'yo. At pag nagawa sa'yo, ano na naman ang pwede mong gawin? Hindi naman yung ganun na naman, di ba? Hindi ko po alam yan eh. Mahirap lang ako. High school. Ang dami. Kung may rason tayong ganun, ikaw nga, high school ka lang, pero nakakapanood kang online, di ba? Social media ka, may ganda telepono mo, pero high school ka pa rin, di ba? So pag gusto natin, let's just, stand up for our rights, stand up for what is right, just the same. And stay tuned to the program kasi every Tuesday po to, daming wisdom talagang malalaman para alam niyo na nasa tama tayo. Yun lang naman yung mahalaga doon. So, with that, thank you so much to our guest. Pasensya na nag-ring yung phone. Yan. At dami ko natutunan. Mike, thank you so much. Yan, nagkamali. So, mali. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, partner. At meron lang akong babasahing quote. Sabi ni Max Dupree, leadership is much more an art, a belief, a condition of the heart than a set of things to do. The visible signs of artful leadership are expressed ultimately in its practice. Oh, ayan ha. So, leadership quote yan. Naghanap ako ng Tagalog, hindi ako makakita eh. Pero, so,
right.
Thank you. At thank you, Bernie Siniel. Thank you, Ate Feli. Thank you sa lahat ng mga sumubaybay at nakinig sa ating palatuntunan. Sana po huwag niyo pong sayangin ang pagkakataon na makasama po kami, makinig po sa aming mga munting diskusyon. Ito naman po para po sa inyong kapakanan at sa kapakanan po ng uring manggagawang Pilipino sa kaligtasan, kahandaan at seguridad. So muli po mula sa amin sa Anghel de la Guardia, nagpapasalamat po kami sa mga sumusunod kay Retired Police Director General Edgar Aglipay, Marinette Yan Aglipay. Happy birthday po, Ma'am Marinette Yan Aglipay. At Teresita Castro yan, Ma'am Ella
Birthday.
Aglipay Delio, kay of course to Congressman Michael Edgar Aglipay and staff of DIWA Party List, Ginger Rosales Aglipay, the wife of Congressman Michael Edgar Aglipay, Yusek Emeline Aglipay Villar, the former Congresswoman of DIWA Party List and now the Undersecretary of Justice, Department of Justice, to Secretary Mark Villar of DPWH, ang kanyang asawa, Brigadier General Emiliano Templo of E-Power Security Agency, one of our mentors, Police Brigadier General, retired Ildebrandi Usana, former Chief PIO, sa presidente ng Asosasyon ng mga Operators ng Security and Detective and Protective Agencies, Kuya Ramon Bergado, kay Kuya Juanito June Lua, at kanyang may bahay na si Ma'am Ophel Lua ng JSL Security Group, si Ma'am Helen Aquino of Unified Security Training Academy, retired Colonel Rodrigo Bonifacio of PVA and Utopia Security Agency, Dr. Joel Supan of Stonewall Security Concepts, Dr. Estelito Jun de la Cruz of Mall Security Management Alliance of the Philippines, to our Chief Martin M1 Aguda, to former Secretary Rafael Rafi Aluna, no, former DILG Secretary, partner and organizations po ng ating palatuntunan, walang yata mga officers nila, walang iba kundi ang ACSTAP, Association of Certified Security Trainers, Aspire, Alliance of Security and Safety Practitioners, PAC SRMS, as Association of Certified Security Risk Management Specialists, CESMAP, Campus Security and Safety Management Alliance of the Philippines. Speaking of, talking about CESMAP, ang Campus Security po ay nag-iimbita po sa atin, sa lahat ng mga gustong sumama. The Campus Security and Safety Management Alliance of the Philippines are a group of educators, school administrators, security and safety practitioners, and campus security and safety advocates, whom agreed on a common need, which is to ensure the safety and security of our students, faculty, staff, and visitors, that will create their feeling of security and safety as they comfortably learn and work in their respective educational institutions, on-site or off-site. In this regard, the Campus Security and Safety Management Alliance of the Philippines, in partnership with the Guardia News Publishing, together with its pool of highly qualified and well-respected speakers from the academe, security, and safety industries, are inviting you to attend the second National Campus Security, Safety, and Risk Management Summit, adapting with the theme Adapting the New Norm Amidst the Pandemic. It is an online summit. It will be held on June 2 and 3. This national summit aims to introduce and promote the new norm of safety and security management amidst the pandemic within the school community. Registration fee per participant is 2,500 on regular rate. So I think now they are still on the early bird rate. So punta po lamang kayo at sa website sa Facebook page ng sa Facebook, i-type nyo lang po Second National Campus Security, Safety, and Risk Management Summit. At pupunta na po kayo doon sa Google form na pwede nyo pong fill upan at sabihin po doon kung paano po yung procedures ng inyong pag-register. So, punta lamang po kayo doon sa event na yon at pwede rin kayo magpunta sa LaGuardia News Online to get the link of that Google Docs, and you can read through it and follow through the registration procedures. Of course, to Security Guards Association of the Philippines, 5-9ers, ADLACAG RWVG, Anghel de la Guardia Community Action Group, Valenzuela and Rizal, Responsible Welfare Volunteer Group, at ang Rizal PNP Press Corps 2021, Taytay Municipal Police Station Advisory Council with the direction or the advisory headed by Chief of Police, Police Lieutenant Colonel Rodel Bano, Chairman of the Advisory Council, Pastor Walter Godoy, and of course our council members. Philippine Investigative Media Alliance Inc., si Dakma Riders Group, Taytay Security Action Force ni Ate Feli Real, of course to Delio Aceron and Raymond Acoba, Chief PIO NCR of PhilHealth. Every Mondays po, Usapang PhilHealth, join us here from 8 to 9 p.m. Jeannie Desidero Garcia of Country Bankers Insurance Group, of course to our friends in the Philippine National Police, Police Security Protection Group, the Director, Police Brigadier General Ferdinand Cifuentes, and to the Advisory Council of the Police Security Protection Group Foundation, Chairman Dr. Reyes Romero and Council, to the Provincial Director of the Province of Rizal, PNP Rizal, Police Colonel Joseph Arguelles, and to the Provincial Director of Nueva Ecija, Police Colonel Jaime Osit Santos, to our station staffs ng ating tech, maraming salamat, and to Sergeant Jeffrey Malimban, and to our station manager, Major Lou Lara, MCOG Commander, and to the new CRS Commander, Brigadier General Manuel V. Siquetin, maraming salamat po. So partner, tulad ng lahat ng kwentuhan o usapan, sa lahat ng ating mga tagapakinig, tayo ay may umpisa at may katapusan. Naway marami po tayong napulot na aral at magagandang halimbawa at istorya na magsisilbing gandang gabay sa atin sa lahat ng hamon sa buhay. Pag tama ang kaalaman, tiyak ang kaligtasan at kapayapaan ng bawat mamamayan. Ito po ang inyong lingkod, nagpapaalam at nag-aayaya na sa susunod na broadcast po natin muli mula alas 8 hanggang alas 10 ng gabi dito pa rin sa La Guardia News Online FB page at sa parehong himpilan ng DWDD 1134 kHz Armed Forces Radio AM band every Saturdays from 3 to 5 p.m. at social media accounts Mike La Guardia DATUIN, Anghel de La Guardia at La Guardia News and La Guardia News Online. Mike La Guardia DATUIN po, kasama po si Brother Louie Domingo po, nagsasabi at nagpapaalala sa ating lahat ng seguridad at kaligtasan ay responsibilidad ng bawat mamamayan. Mapasaan ka man, lakasan ng loob at magtiwala dahil alam naman natin na tayong lahat ay may Anghel de La Guardia. Pahabol lang, sabi ni Ma'am Mildred Shaning Kinko, good evening daw po sa ating lahat. At sabi rin ni Brother Delio Aceron, watching. Thank you mga boss.
Yes.
Magandang gabi, stay safe and COVID-free.
Good evening. Thank you.